Recent polling shows that health care is among one of the top issues for voters. A recent survey by the Kaiser.
U.S. Republican House members are here in Central Florida to try to escape, as they say, the Beltway bubble, to get out of D.C.
Senator Bill Nelson has his eyes right here on the Space Coast and the eastern part of the I-4.
And it isn't hard. All you need is the right tool and a swift hit.
Now spent hours, even days in pools just like this one. And yet the water in the real world isn't always this clear.
Now this video is taken from this perspective here off Central Boulevard, but it's just one perspective of many that night. In fact, there were eyewitnesses all over this street, and Orlando police are hoping to hear from them so they can get a better idea of the bigger picture of what happened that night.
To the summit, it's a 19,341-foot trek. So the family decided to use that number and turn it into their monetary goal for the charity Me Strong.
It's hard to tell what's what under all that water Wednesday. Sidewalks submerged, roads look like rivers.
I could not see it was so deep. I didn't know it was so deep until I saw the car.
Onesis Macias found out when her Jeep flooded out and stopped at El Prado and Ensenada Drive. Crews waded through the water to rescue Macias and her son from the flooded SUV.
Yeah, they took my son out of the car on me. Yeah, because the water was so high.
Lieutenant Ryan Williams, he's about 6 feet tall, told me that he was wading through the water and it was waist deep to get to these drivers and people in the cars.
Rescue crews helped 9 people in 6 cars at the intersection Wednesday. Despite the stalled Jeep, flooded roads, and caution tape, some drivers ignored the warnings and tried to make it through the area anyway.
The water came inside my car from the back doors.
Macias learned the hard way how important it is to stop when approaching any flooded roads.
Watch out, even if your car is 4x4 like mine, you get stuck. It's so bad, it's really bad.
Feet marching together, hands holding signs high, voices echoing through the streets of Orlando, and hearts all fueled with the same passion.
It's a mixed feelings, you know what I mean? Part of me is happy and then part of me is upset because of what's going on.
It's that feeling that united these hundreds of people of all different races and backgrounds.
That's surprising to me.
Rayo Diggs looks at the crowd surrounding him.
I never knew
that something like this would ignite the same anger and desire for change in people who don't share his skin tone. And from that anger, he feels hope.
You know, where I'm from, it's like not really, I don't know, like I grew up around a lot of black people and stuff, so I didn't really see other races. So I wouldn't know where they stood at, like other races and stuff. So like seeing this, it actually like opened my mind up to like the world is not as bad as I thought.
Then came the support. People stood on the outskirts of the crowd offering food, water, and encouragement.
Yeah, I just want to get back to the community, you know what I mean? We all out here together, we trying to do this, there's a lot going on, and outside from just brutality, you know, it's a lot of other things that are being unaddressed, so, you know, I just want to do my part, help out.
For hours, they kept marching. From City Hall to Orlando Police Headquarters to the 408, and all along the way, even with the notorious summer sun, they never let the heat take a toll on their spirits. Some say for the first time, they feel like their voices are truly being heard and their message is breaking through.
And it's really just a cry for respect and, you know, just mutual understanding.
There is from houses number 7504.
The tattoo on Helen Kahan's arm is a permanent reminder of her remarkable story of survival.
They killed all my relatives. And what I was remained with was only little sisters.
In 1944, the Nazis forced Kahan into a ghetto before deportation to the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp. Near the end of World War II, Kahan escaped from a death march before the Soviet army liberated her and thousands of prisoners.
And Helen is just the prime example of the lessons of the Holocaust, both the worst in humanity and the best, and the perseverance.
Before the game, museum's board chair Michael Eagle recalled something his grandfather, a Holocaust survivor, would tell him.
At special events, sometimes he would just kind of turn and say, Hitler would be so angry if he saw this. And I think about that a little bit tonight. This is a night of victory and celebration.
Wearing her custom-raised jersey with the number 100 on her back, Kahan could hear the sounds of cheers echoing through the ballpark as she walked to the mound.
No, this was more than I ever expected.
In one word, how would she describe her first pitch?
Just terrific.
Kahan has 2 children, 5 grandchildren, and 12 great-grandchildren. Nearly all of them were with her on the field for this once-in-a-lifetime occasion.
Oh dear, it cannot be a better thing. It cannot be. I am on my birthday and I have such happiness.
Along a sandy beach in the Sunshine State, Garrison Coleman and his buddy were hoping for a fish story to tell.
Me and my friend, we were scouting for a fishing spot early in the morning.
Instead, they found a life story.
So I really didn't know what to do about it, and I didn't want to leave it there.
A message in a bottle found along the beach at Anna Maria Island introduced them to a man they had never met.
It was overwhelming in the way of, this is somebody's life, this is somebody's family.
A man they would never meet.
I saw the word cancer, and I saw how he wanted to live out his days in Florida. It was really overwhelming.
Inside was a handwritten note from Howard Brown detailing his dreams to live out my life in Florida with my beautiful wife of 57 years, he writes. Cancer, he said, had other plans. And sadly, he was right. The final legible words on the note, he says, I am gone now.
It was really sad, to hear how cancer had taken him early,
Garrison's dad, Brent, knew they had a mission.
The first thing I thought was, I just really want to make sure whoever it belongs to, they get it back.
So the search for the family began. A Facebook post and dozens of comments later.
They were very grateful that, they could get that piece of their family history back, I think, as sad as the circumstances around it were.
Brown's family now has his bottle back. The Colemans mailed it to Kentucky from Anna Maria Island the same day.
They're going to take it, reseal it, and put it back with his wishes, the way he wanted it done.
What do you make of the sort of fate of the universe that made this possible?
It's really eye-opening, really. Just to think that there's so many things that we don't see in our day-to-day life and people's personal lives.
A message of hopes and dreams from a life gone by.
You wouldn't know it meandering through 3 acres of land between a new build development and highway, but an old cemetery is there. Buried under overgrown plants and fallen trees are the bodies of an African-American community dating back to the 1880s. Oakland native Betty Wade's grandfather is one of them.
He came to work on the railroad, and after the completion of the railroad, he went to work for some of the local families in Oakland.
Betty never met her grandfather, James Walker. He died before she was born.
He died in the 1918 flu pandemic at 37 years old.
Some tombstones still remain, but now white pipes coming out of the ground are inserted as markers for other bodies to be known underground.
The cemetery has been here since 1882, and it has never had a name. And as you walk through parts of the cemetery, you'll find some tombstones that have names on them, but then you'll find other grave sites that you just won't know who's here because there's no name listed anywhere.
The town of Oakland is now hoping to receive historic preservation grant money this July for the cemetery.
And we're at a point now that the town itself needs to come up with a long-term plan to make the property accessible, at least on a limited access, and to maintain and take care of this and be respectful of it as a cemetery.
If awarded the money, Oakland would put it towards property cleanup, improvements, and making the cemetery that's been there before the town of Oakland itself, which was founded in 1887, a historic site. Oakland is in the midst of opening a new arts and heritage center that is right off the West Orange Trail. This cemetery would be featured proudly.
A source of pride for the town. And really to be able to highlight the history and heritage of the town.
Betty has spent 18 years hoping the historic Oakland Cemetery one day would be preserved properly. She now hopes, with backing from the town itself, that day will now soon come.
It would mean that it would be cared for a little more.
In Orange County, Asher Wildman, Spectrum News 13.
It was a scene out of a Hallmark movie. A display of Christmas and community spirit.
That's what this town is about too. Like Lakeland is so community oriented, and it was great to just see that as an example here.
It all started with H.L. McConnell, a chaplain at Tampa General.
Mackenzie and I have I don't know how to explain it, like a brother-sister relationship, I don't know, bond between us.
He met Mackenzie Orth and her family last spring and has been with them in Orth's uphill battle against an aggressive cancer. He wanted to do something special for her favorite holiday, so he contacted Lakeland SantaCon.
So about 2 weeks ago, I messaged them via Instagram. I didn't know anybody. I just messaged them and asked them if they could maybe find me a Santa Claus and maybe some elves to come by.
I was at the salon, literally sitting in the chair when I read the message, and I just started crying.
Megan Lumen and Bethany Fife organized SantaCon.
He asked if I could get some Santas to show up at her house, and I was like, well, I think I can probably do a little bit better than that, but but we'll see.
What they saw amazed all of them. And in a moment where the crowd held its breath, Orth, too weak to stand, had her dad lift her up to a pony.
But that was a moment of pure peace and comfort for her.
It was a moment of pure peace and comfort for everyone. And to cap it all off,
oh, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why.
There was hardly a dry eye on the block.
At Pup's Pub in Tampa, the VIP customers aren't people, they're pups.
If you don't have a dog, that's okay. Come on in anyway.
Alex Wright and Sheila Suhar wanted to open a bar for dog owners. The couple got a permit from the health department and opened for business.
Very much so. I think this is something that, we are very passionate about. It's our life, it's our everything.
Then after nearly 2 years of operating, the health department came back with violations for having dogs in the bar, despite an explicit agreement that they weren't serving food, only drinks.
To find out that they are now confused and are questioning allowing dogs inside, it didn't make sense to us.
It didn't make sense to a judge either. After a year of legal fighting, a Florida administrative law judge heard their case in late March, saying, quote, the Department of Health changed its interpretation and application of its own rule, calling the health department's claim that the way they allowed other dog bars to operate while applying a different standard to Pup's Pub was not credible. For the owners, it was an expensive headache.
We did everything we were supposed to do. We followed the playbook. I really did feel helpless and hopeless.
The health department declined to comment for this story, citing ongoing litigation. Alex and Sheila say their business took a hit on top of legal fees, with customers unsure of what was going on. They never closed at all, while fighting what they called a David versus Goliath battle.
I think definitely a weight off our shoulder is really what it feels like. Definitely walking a little lighter. And just, the entire time, as hard as it was to kind of carry that weight and put on a face, I think we stayed positive through and through, and just to be on the other side of it with a positive outcome, it's just been really fantastic.
For Lieutenant Carlo Vasquez and Lieutenant Billy Martin, lending aid to migrants is more than a mission. They begin their day at Air Station Miami, checking their HC 144A. We took off, heading south over the Florida Keys as crews scan the water for migrants.
It's been a tremendously humbling experience. I mean, having impact on, each flight, having these search and rescue cases.
Scenes like this playing out on other missions.
They left from Cuba and going to Miami.
More Cubans and Haitians are taking the risk by crossing on these makeshift boats or rickety rafts, often crowded.
Oye, ¿cómo están todos?
And with women and children.
In those rafts of maybe 10 to 15, maybe 20-foot rafts, we saw, I think the highest was 21, 25. It is just a heartbreaking thing to see them willing to just risk everything for a better life.
Life jackets, put them on.
The Coast Guard says it's intercepted more than 10,000 Cuban and Haitian migrants since last October.
What has your experience been like flying over the Caribbean and knowing that there's been this influx of migrants?
It's been very eye-opening.
Safety is the primary mission.
The engine caught on fire. They can't keep going. They're just waiting for help, for food.
A Coast Guard crew rescued these 3 men from their sunken vessel last month. Others stranded, waving for help.
We're at about 500 feet right now, and once this hatch is open, these crews can deliver the necessary and dire equipment to the migrants, making this very dangerous journey in these waters. Some of that equipment includes survival kits, rafts, and flares.
The whole goal there is to prevent them from continuing on. These winds and seas get really choppy. Transiting these hundreds of miles across open ocean in something that is built with, styrofoam it's just mind-boggling.
Once crews in the air spot migrants and drop off equipment, a Coast Guard cutter is sent by sea. The migrants are picked up and returned to their native country.
I know that there's a lot of words being used to describe all these people that are coming across, but we're all humans, and a life is a life.
The last thing they want is to lose a life at sea.
When you see these people, what's the first thing that's going through your mind?
I mean, safety. I know a lot of them have kids, and my main concern is I want to make sure that they're all still alive to be able to go home back to their children.
This craft,
I'm putting the needle on the string.
Made by a little girl with a big heart,
I'm making a pattern bracelet.
Holds so much meaning for Tori Taylor.
I like just wearing jewelry because it makes me feel confident. So I wanted to make sure other people feel confident wearing jewelry too.
Tori came up with the idea of making bracelets with inspirational phrases to give to people down on their luck. And when she hands them to people,
I want them to feel happy and confident and ready to do anything and just feel nice and just like a fresh breath of air from a cloudy storm.
That's something we could all use in 2020. The events of this year can be hard for anyone to wrap their head around, let alone a 9-year-old.
Talked to my mom, and I felt that I need to help with all of the things that are happening.
And then Tori spelled out her solution.
Having a conversation with her at the beginning of the pandemic and after the death of George Floyd, she turned to me and said just a couple of words that stuck out with me, and even now they give me goosebumps. And she said, all we need is love.
Love. One of the messages built with beads by Tori.
She wanted to be able to make an impact on race and equality in America.
She donates some of the money she raises to organizations supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, learning some real-life lessons at a young age, and building up others along the way.
I just like helping people. I feel I help other people with their emotions and stuff. Like, I like just standing up for people and making sure they feel happy.
In Orlando, Sharon Stone, Spectrum News 13. In today's high-tech world, industry leaders are working to build a defense strategy against an attack they cannot see. Malware, ransomware, and other cyber warfares are an evolving threat. To defend themselves, industries rely on cybersecurity.
This is not a need that will go away ever. As long as we have computers and technology, there are going to be people who are going to try to exploit it to their advantage.
Lockheed Martin's Tom Plummer says the global security and aerospace company has hundreds of job openings in cybersecurity, many in Central Florida, and the industry is booming. There are more than 13,000 unfilled cybersecurity jobs in Florida.
People out there who are trying to do bad things are always advancing their craft, so we always have to advance our craft. And we're learning new tools and skills every single day.
Staying ahead of the game and developing a pipeline of talent led them to partner with UCF. The Lockheed Martin Cyber Innovation Lab opened on campus last February, and you can frequently find UCF junior Charlton Trezevant there.
Cybersecurity has been a deep passion of mine for most of my life, actually.
He says student-run Cyber Defense Club Hack at UCF uses the space for workshops and training.
It's done a huge amount to help me advance my own career. And that's another aspect of why I'm so interested in supporting the club, because I know that it does that for other people as well.
The lab is a space for them to prep for national cyber defense competitions. It's increased awareness of cybersecurity within the student body and increased their visibility outside of the university.
The Cyber Lab has been a real game changer for us, not just in terms of what we can do as a club in our day-to-day operations, but also in particular within the university.
Lockheed Martin says so far it's working. They hire more grads from UCF than any other university in the country. They provide paid work experience to about 650 students each year, and about 60% of them are offered full-time jobs.
Lockheed Martin sees this as a great opportunity to bring in students that will have experience beyond just their curriculum, to be able to do things and be more prepared for the work when they start.
And the jobs should be there when they're ready. The lab on campus is just the beginning of a 20-year partnership between Lockheed Martin and UCF, so they'll keep building that pipeline of talent in an industry that just keeps growing. In Orlando, Sharon Stone, Spectrum News 13.
Eddie was the fireball. He was a special boy.
Family memories capture him. A young, charismatic boy becoming a man. Graduation, a rite of passage. A mother putting years of love on display and pressed into every relic.
You had that on, yeah.
That night? Mm-hmm. You can see why Mina Justice lives that moment every day.
Every Sunday is that day. They died on Sunday. That was the end of my life, seemed like. To lose my baby.
Justice was particularly close with her youngest child, Eddie, who died in the attack at Pulse.
I called him Droy. I said, Droy, you gay? No. I said, Mama don't care. Mama always gonna love you.
In losing him, she lost faith.
Well, at that time, I didn't have no belief. At that time, it was hate.
But threads that connect us aren't always visible. Years after the attack, Justice found her way to join Metropolitan Community Church in Orlando.
It's a church mainly of LGBTQ plus people.
If God can use Paul, God can use us.
And Reverend Terry Steed Pierce.
Having to decide, am I going to be gay or am I going to love God? It's not a choice I can make because it's who I am.
And Pulse became a starting point, a launching point for total inclusion in every church, not just a few of ours.
It was a community that needed comfort and support more than ever. One unexpected visitor came to break bread.
And he grabbed my hands and he said, God, would you bless this church?
The visitor, the last person Reverend Pierce expected at her tiny church.
I really want to know about you.
Dr. Joel C. Hunter extended a hand in healing.
This is me and President Obama in the Oval Office.
While he once served as spiritual advisor to the president, for 30 years, Hunter was lead pastor at Northland Church in Longwood.
We all had gay and lesbian and bi and some trans, I think, in our congregations, but you didn't talk about it. It was like, and they were afraid to say anything, especially in an evangelical congregation.
But Hunter's change of heart.
When people would comment about LGBTQ people or make comments, that became personal to me.
Changed his path.
There was a lot of blowback, even from my own church.
And so then what? Did it push you out?
Yeah, basically, it told me that the further I got into justice issues, the more I'd probably have to do it outside the institutional church.
In the years following Pulse, others too felt pushback for raising their voice, like Imam Abdurrahman Sykes.
I get met with a lot of controversy. People don't like it. People say that I'm promoting, and I don't even like to use this word anymore, but they say I'm promoting homosexuality. I'm not promoting anything. Yes, I am. I'm promoting love and compassion to all human beings.
And in reading the Quran,
and made you people and tribes so that you might come to know one another.
He prays for more than just tolerance for the LGBT community, but acceptance.
I hope for a day that we do that. I hope for I hope for a day when we live what the faith teaches instead of talk. Talk is cheap. Talk is very cheap. But to stand against those who hate is difficult.
Fostering these kinds of conversations, especially within the faith community, is hard. But that's why Dr. Earl Moat at the One Pulse Foundation is conducting a study, one of the first of its kind to bridge the gap.
The study really looks at how we can bring these interfaith leaders together and facilitate that kind of conversation. LGBTQ community, right? They have the highest rates of suicide, right? And we know that the church is a protective barrier for that.
We can save lives.
It can save lives, absolutely.
Mowat is surprised many Central Florida pastors are open and want to have that conversation.
And how many do you anticipate sending it out to?
As Hunter helps him make connections.
I think we've taken huge steps toward friendship, toward understanding, because we've been shocked into a recognition of the vulnerability of a community and into the hurts that people have gone through.
Though the thread of hurt runs all the way back to Davenport and Mina Justice's home,
God has a lot to do with this.
she sees her son in every message she now receives from an LGBTQ youth who is struggling.
And I love that people don't even know me. And they reach out, message her. And then they tell me their story, that they don't have no one to love them.
A mother's love like a thread with no end.
But I need peace with losing my son. That's what I pray for.